Guys, can you hear me? I'm not sure.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I wasn't sure what I was showing up as because I couldn't get to my normal account. All right. I don't know if Ron told you, but there was an accident on the bridge. So I went to Second Narrows and now I'm Hastings. I've been
You're being recorded, Councillor Abbott. So that's great. You're able to come on.
Thanks for joining us.
So that's good. Okay, welcome to the Committee of the Whole. The date is Thursday, October the 9th, 2025. The time is 6 o'clock. With that, I'll call the meeting to order. And I see item number 2 is the closure of the meeting. So do we have motion to, sorry.
House.
No, we don't need to go to close.
No?
Okay.
Okay. All right, we won't be going into closed at this time, but the adoption of the agenda, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Okay, second. Okay, I'll second that. Any changes, amendments? No, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Okay, opposed, motion carried. Okay, with that, we'll move to public participation. There is no one in the gallery. Anyone online, Crystal?
No, no hands.
No, okay, we'll move right to the approval of the prior minutes. We have a motion to approve October 2nd, 2025 minutes.
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second? Do we have a second? Okay,
I'll second.
okay, Councillor Abbott seconded. Any amendments, changes? No, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, no business arising from the minutes. Unfinished business. We'll move to 9.1, a budget discussion. And with that, I will hand it over to Joe Cherkoff. Before I do that, we'll do a roll call. We have Councillor Abbott online. We have Councillor McLaughlin in the gallery, Councillor Broughton, and Councillor Cunliffe is absent.
Technically, Mayor Barry, I'm not in the gallery.
He's at
Close
the
to the
table.
gallery, but at the table. Apologies. Okay, with that, we're going to hand it over to Joe Cherkoff. Joe is going to go through the budget and walk us through the process. With that, I would appreciate all the councillors to aid me in keeping the meeting moving along. This is a preliminary meeting of covering over the budget. So Mr. Cherkoff will lead us through that and we can answer any questions. Councillor McLaughlin.
Thank you for both mayor and for financial officer. Is this save the questions to the end or go through, or are you going to break it up for the questions?
Through the chair.
Yeah.
This is primarily broken out into 2 parts. We'll go through the objectives of this meeting specifically, and then we'll go through the meat and potatoes of what the package you have is.
Yeah, it's a good thing workshop manager's not here.
Yeah. It comes off, I've tried it. It comes off easily.
Sorry, I thought that was what that was for.
It's inconvenient because she's taking notes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, if we need any additional sheets, we can pull some more out there.
Thank you.
Mr. Cherkoff. Okay, over to you, Mr. Cherkoff.
All right, great. So thank you for attending the kickoff meeting for the committee of the whole discussion of the 2026 budget and the 2026 to 2030 5-year financial plan. So we've got 2 hours tonight to achieve some specific outcomes. First goal is commitment to the process. So will be outlining, I'll be outlining specifically key milestones, the action items that are required to get this budget moving forward, key dates, and once we've all agreed or had input that we can agree that this is a process we're committed to, and we're all agreed, then we'll move forward with that on that understanding. The other outcome, assuming that this is passed or agreed to, is to receive a high level data dump essentially of the budgetary highlights.
Can I just ask a quick question while we're going? Are you looking for resolutions on these, or are you just looking for general agreements?
Then we're all on the same page.
Good enough.
So, that's the immediate objectives we're going through right now.
Mike? Yes.
So, I've outlined, the budget process is a dynamic process. Things are gonna come in, come out, we're gonna have discussions. And so the way it's been, in my mind laid out is, in a similar process to last year, is that we attack it by chunks, specific areas that we can have a focused discussion about. And, with the goal to, the next meeting, approve or incorporate the information and discussion that happened in the previous meeting, and then approve that section. So in your budget packages, you'll notice that there is a action item list outlining all the specific items of the budget that are required to be addressed. And so what we're trying to get to is an agreement on dates and as specific milestones to approve these items, such that we can attain an eventual goal of passing the budget before December. This would be the earliest budget that's ever been approved in the Village of Lions Bay. And it's in pursuit of a goal of continuous improvement in the budgeting process, such that hopefully the end goal over a period of time is to be able to pursue recognition from the GFOABC with budgetary excellence in process planning awards, which would be nice. So, objective number 1, committed to the process by the committee of the whole. Key dates. So our meetings as currently scheduled are today. Then we have the 16th of October, the 23rd of October, and nothing in December or in November. My suggestion is that we have a meeting in November 6th for the final approvals, with the goal to have that meeting approving all the budgetary items with a view that we can recommend it to the council for first, second, and third reading. So key dates.
Sorry, Joe, can I just jump in on that?
Yeah.
So council has a role to make that happen. So council's role in making that happen is to ensure that these budget meetings are a continuous feedback loop where we move forward and then we do the same cover the same ground the next meeting. This has to be iterative in order for these targets to be met. Rather than use these meetings for deep dives into detail that the rest of council may not be interested in, as we did last year, I would strongly underline all the highlighted yellow. Reach out to Mr. Cherkoff, who will make himself available to work with council to answer the deep dive questions. So if all of this happens, it should be pretty easy to move through this process. I'll give you an example. The number of meetings, again, I'm going to draw from my experience. So with an $80 million budget, we were able to get the elected body through the process with an adopted budget in the same number of meetings. So it's why I'm saying this is it's very doable, but everyone has a role in trying to keep that train moving on the tracks. How does that sound?
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think it'll take all of council to
100%.
to work together and move this forward.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to objective number 1 for tonight, key dates. Well, October 9th, kickoff. So we'll have this is a bottom-up approach for the budget, where we look at individual departments, capital requests, operating supplementals, and then we work up towards what at the end, what a required tax increase would be to fund what council has decided is important.
Sorry, Joe, I apologize for doing this. Councilor McLaughlin may not be familiar with, maybe you are, maybe you're not, with the terms of fund supplementals. I don't know if that's been used.
I'm a quick study, I'm good.
Okay.
So, ideally, what I was gonna say is, Plan. Generally, a lot of the discussion is gonna be around supplementals. And this is gonna be what's new this year, where were the requests from Administration Public Works regarding annual operating expenses, new items from the base budget, and capital expenditures. This will involve the most of the discussion for the budget in 2026. And so I want to attack this first, such that again, we have to, and that will be in our first meeting, or in our next meeting, I should say. October 16th. And so we would be reviewing capital and operating supplementals in detail. The whole team will be here, Public Works, Administration, and we have a fulsome discussion with a view to an outcome of agreeing on what's going to be on the table for 2026. Supplementally, that would be included into the next meeting with a revised worksheet so that we can approve that. And you'll see on your action items list, what we want to do is cross off that item so it's off the table. You want to knock this list off, items off this list after each meeting. October 16th, we'd also like to discuss the utilities budgets, well, wastewater, water, and solid waste. These are generally fairly straightforward. In previous experience, half an hour discussion. So we basically self-fund to basically a zero small surplus. But there's not a whole lot of discussion there. Usually it's very, very bare bones. So I think we can knock off both of these on October 16th, coming back to approve them and knock those off the action list on the next meeting, on the 23rd. After this, we go on October 23rd. Approval of 16 items in principle, and then discuss department operational budgets. So this would be administration, public works, parks and recreation, etc. These are all of the detail information has been provided in your package with the usual notes by department for each line item. We're not going to be discussing that tonight. This is just a high-level overview where we're at or what we're expecting. And again, the idea is for it basically a data dump for council or committee of the whole, so that they can consider it into the upcoming meeting for the discussions. So then we get to a revised budget after having discussed and approved in principle supplementals, utilities, on the departmental operating budgets. We'll talk about the required property tax increase. A discussion on the impact on reserves. And then at the end of all this, provide recommendation to council to for the final package. And that would be in the council meeting of November 18th. For the readings of the budget. So that is the first thing that we need to agree on. Is this a SMART goal? Is it specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely? If we can get to this, then we can all agree that this is a process that we can commit to. I think we have a chance at fulfilling this objective.
You looking for an answer on that one right now?
Yes, we have, effectively what I'm looking for is buy-in from the committee of the whole to commit to this schedule. And if there are any concerns or is there any inputs that you'd like to give, time to discuss it. We can't move forward until everybody buys into the process.
And how often are you going to make yourself available between these dates?
Every day I'm in the office. You can call me, come in, just give you some heads up and what you want to talk about, or over email, send me an email with detailed lists of questions. It doesn't need to be even particular to the next meeting, it could be for one for a little further down. But I'm available to discuss all the details, got all the information. But the objective here is to compartmentalize each item to make sure our discussions in the council chamber are focused and outcome oriented. Whatever I need to do to support your decision-making process, I'm available to assist with that.
Can I ask a favor or a request? Is if from time to time one of us comes in and makes a suggestion and you think it's wise to incorporate that, maybe just send a little note so that we all can learn from that experience and we understand the changes, and then we won't have to repeat different requests. And I think that'd be helpful.
No, that's an excellent suggestion. And so I will advise council or committee of the whole of anybody that I've had a meeting with and a brief summary of the discussion, such that everybody's on the same page and we have to repeat.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be, you know, some long-winded memo, just right to the point.
Point form.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
Well, right now, it's, if what Jill is seeking is consensus from council that this is acceptable for council or to council.
Acceptable for process.
Okay, maybe we go around the room and then get feedback. Councilor McLaughlin or Councilor Broughton, would you like to comment or give your feedback?
Thank you, Mayor Barry. I'll hold my comments so we're a little farther down.
Okay, Councilor Broughton.
Yeah, I guess once I really understand the CapEx and the OpEx numbers, then I may want to seek more information in terms, or we want to make some adjustments to those or whatever. So definitely at a high level, I'd be committed to pursuing this process. Not so much last year, but the year before, I felt like we were sort of moving along and we bought into certain things, and then there ended up being an accumulation of sort of yeses that when we got to the end of the road, it said, okay, and now if we want to do that, we need 12% tax increase or something like that. So it felt like we were incrementally buying into and without seeing the big picture. So nothing to do with you, Joe, but in terms of the fact that we haven't done a strategic planning session as yet. If we had done that and we said, okay, that really fits in here, boom, 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 then that works really well. So it just seems like, there's so many balls in the air, but so I want to acknowledge that there's a lot of stuff going on, but at a high level, I certainly, I think we can go through it, understand it. If there's something that we need to question or kind of shift around, then certainly, we may have to make some strategic, some adjustments moving along.
Mr. Blackwell, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just a couple of thoughts on this one. So this is Joe's plan in order to get this done and stop this, spinning the wheels thing. Doesn't mean it's carved in stone.
Right.
By committing to it, you're not signing your life over sort of thing, but it's sort of.
Yeah, that's why I'm using the term high level acceptance.
Yeah. And so.
Understanding that it could.
Yeah, and to your concerns, here's what I would offer. So I've been doing budgets for a very long time now. I don't even want to tell you how long it would be problematic for me to list the number of years.
35.
I haven't been doing budgets quite that long. So here's what here's how I would parse it out, generally speaking. Council has a core budget. They're fixed costs.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, I'm gonna tell you what you know. Fixed costs, you can't change those with a caveat. And those fixed costs go up at least by a CPI with employment. It's union contracts and so forth. So that's a little bit in question right now. But you can't change that, here's the caveat, unless council chooses to adjust the service level.
Right,
So that's a totally doable,
Right.
but that's often a very difficult one for any council to wrestle down. Because the reality is that most residents want a greater level of service, but don't want to pay more tax. It's this push-pull tension.
Mhm.
So generally speaking, coming to consensus on a base budget should be fairly straightforward. As Joe was saying, the key is the add-ons, which are all the elective, the optional stuff, which are all of these supplementals. Each of these supplementals that are going to be coming forward can be ranked in terms of the risk and the outcome of doing it or not doing it. As can't remember if Joe did this last year, but what we can do is a real-time PowerPoint, not PowerPoint, we call it Excel. So that with every item you work through, you get the immediate impact in terms of a tax lift. So if we do this, it's, 3%.
what is the
We do.
impact, yeah,
And so you go, well, let's switch this one out and so forth. So that's the horse trading, I'm afraid to say. You can't do it all. You can't do everything, as you know. You can't do everything on the supplemental list. You're just gonna have to pick the ones that council feels are gonna be justified. As you know, sometimes it's better not to do short-term fixes on things. It's better to hold off to do something that has long-term benefits. And so this is the challenging piece. It's gonna take time for council.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't be surprised if that has to be a 2-meeting scenario. So those are basically the chunks. So when, as Joe has this set up, when you're done, the base budget should be pretty simple. The grinding will be the horse trading, the trade-offs, the difficult decisions around what supplemental items to leave off the list, what to include, and you're essentially, when you've done that piece, you're essentially done. Is that supplemental piece? Would you say that's?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
absolutely.
Councilman McLaughlin?
Gentlemen, let's get to the numbers.
Sure. Okay, so you can accept this as in principle. This works.
Sorry, guys, could I comment as well?
Yeah, of
Anyone
course.
else there?
Yes, of course, Councillor Abbott.
So first of all, a little disappointing or a little frustrating on a personal level. There are a lot of the sort of meat or rubber's going to hit the road in the next meeting, and as I've advised previously, I cannot attend. I'll be on a remote site. I don't even know if I'll have an internet connection. So I'll have to find a way to catch up on that. I'll obviously listen to the recording when I get back, but then I'll have to be a little late on input or questions or whatever happens next week. Comment on what I've seen so far. I like the first, I don't know, dozen pages of the presentation part. I think it's an improvement on the way we got it before. I think it reads nice, it reads great. It helps to get you to understand at a high level kind of trends from budget on budget, year on year budget. What I think is missing once again, and I asked for this, did this last year and the year before, is the actuals from 2025. And I know the year's not ended, and we've discussed this several times. 80% of our costs are fixed costs that are accrued month on month, or sometimes like insurance payments, 2 payments a year. It's easy enough to forecast with a very small percentage of where we'll be at the end of December, and be very accurate. It's really easy to do on those items. And the variance to what we budgeted on 2 different years is really not as anywhere near as helpful as the actuals of the year that's just ended. That's what we should be looking at. A variance of last year's budget versus the previous year's budget is meaningless, if we use that to make a new budget, because all we're doing is just making the same error over and over. We need to look at actuals. So that's my one ask, is we get the actuals into the next version. As to the suggestions about keeping people up to date on changes, and especially if some of us can attend all meetings, what I'd request, what might be the simplest, might be the quickest, and definitely the most efficient way of doing that, is just to keep a change log. Every time you change something, just add another line on a spreadsheet that says item so and so and so and so changed from X to Y, and then a column that says by agreement, approved, or at request of one, whatever it is. So we can all, well, if I miss a meeting, I can just read the change log. I mean, it's a common practice, you know, in my industry, keep change logs. It's a really easy way to keep people up to date. So that's my suggestion.
Okay, Mr. Cherkoff, you had your hand up?
Oh, through the chair. Thank you, Councilor Abbott. I am in agreement with your discussion regarding the need for budget to actuals and forecast. That's not the scope of this meeting, and I appreciate your input as to having it incorporated into the next meeting. That is the plan, and so we expect to have year-to-date numbers incorporated in the next version of the detailed budget worksheets. So thank you for that, but we're not going to be discussing anything in that kind of granular detail today. And I think the change log is a great idea. I can work with basically an Excel worksheet and just kind of show who said what. Here's a change, and then just distribute that to the group. But that would be my comment.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Joe this time? No, back to Joe. And
Joe, do you feel like you have number one solved? Are
I
you
think,
comfortable with that?
yeah, I think everybody's in principle comfortable with this process. All right, so we're going on to objective number 2, which is for committee of the whole to receive a high level highlights. These have been distributed within your council package. And that's what I'm going to go through right now here. And so the purpose of this discussion is to give a high level discussion of variances and departmental budgets, identify current asks for capital and operating supplementals. I'm gonna have a discussion about our reserves for funding this and these requests. And then the desired outcome of this is not for a discussion today or any sort of approval or resolution, is to make sure that you have a basis to start your internal deliberations about your thoughts about what the budget's going to look like, so that we can have a fulsome discussion in each of these meeting dates that we've described. So we start with the land acknowledgement, and we acknowledge the land in which we live and work on this traditional territory of the Coast Salish peoples. Specifically, we recognize Western Amish nations and that their historic connections to those lands continue to this day. Next page is council strategic priorities. So we look at financial priorities to ensure that the long-term financial sustainability, maintaining maintenance of core services.
Sorry to interrupt. Just so every council's all on the same page. These strategic priorities, I believe, are from the last council. They've not been updated by this council. So they're not necessarily intended to reflect what council's thinking is our priorities now, but you're using this as a placeholder.
Good.
Priorities.
To my point about the strategic planning session. Yeah.
That's gonna be extremely helpful in guiding the budget next year. Resource and prioritize maintenance upgrades. Organization to build and retain a motivated and high-performing team, and planning. So that's the goal in this budget. That's good on the slide. So our base service levels cover administration, finance, public works, solid waste, wastewater, water, roads, parks and recreation, fire rescue, emergency planning, emergency support, bylaw enforcement, building inspection, planning and development. We're going to be going through these items at a high level in the following slides. So next page is revenue sources, excluding grants and borrowing. Our property taxation constitutes 52% in the budget of our total revenues. Last year, it was 52%. User fees at 33%, last year 32%. Sales of goods and services, program user fees at 10%, 2025, 9%, and other revenues at 6% in 2026. 2025, it was 7%. Effectively, we're expecting basically what we had last year. It's the core budget. Revenue is consistent in the previous years. Grant revenue, when you look at the 2025 actual, which I'll be providing in our next supplement, included 3.94 million for the AZAP project, the Ozone Water Remediation project, and 1.3 million in loan financing for the CUB 3 project, which is why our revenues were normally high in, are going to show as normally high in 2025 versus 2026. The next page is the 2026 financial plan overview that shows the actuals for 2024 based on our audited financial statements, includes our budget for 2025, and to Councillor Abbott's comment, in our next iteration of this, we'll have the year-to-date amounts for 2025 as well. We project a surplus in 2026 of $110,000. That is in accordance with public sector accounting standards. Next page is revenue comparison from 2024, budget 25 and 26. So property tax was in accordance with our 5-year plan that had been adopted. Last year we had a 5% tax increase. This year was projected to be a 3% tax increase, and it's basically a keep the lights on budget. Inflation is around 3%. Our costs are adjusted for inflation, and the tax rate currently is at 3%, a property tax rate increase. So keep the lights on. Utilities are budgeted at 5%, consistent with our previous year's increases. And again, that's keep the lights on. We're trying to build a little bit of a surplus in each of those departments, such that we're putting away some money at least to fund maintenance and improvements.
Which, by the way, is just good practice. Some municipalities actually have a reserve policy, and those reserves, which we don't have. I've never come across a reserve policy. So it's something that council could consider. So reserve policies set out percentages per year that council commit to with regard to reserve budgets. For example, council commits to X dollars per year for fire truck replacement or fire equipment, whatever the case may be. And the benefit of having a reserve policy for all of these key reserve accounts is that it doesn't change from year to year based on the personalities at the table or changes in council and so on and so forth. It makes it less likely that it gets adjusted or is otherwise ad hoc. It sort of creates a standard baseline, and for financial accounting purposes, it makes it more reliable and consistent. So that's something that council could contemplate, and if one is required, we just need to tap on the shoulder and we'll bring one forward to council to consider.
Thank you. And then so on this page for revenue, you'll notice again, as Noah mentioned, for the grants, it's a decrease of 92%, primarily related to the AZAP project. We've already received that 3.94 million in 2025. We're not getting any more money. We're just going to spend it in 2026. And loan proceeds of 1.3 million to fund the CUB 3 project. We have been approved for that short-term borrowing, and we expect to receive the money in the next few weeks. That will be deposited in a high interest savings account, such that any interest we're incurring on that will be offset by interest income until we start spending the money. Next page, we look at general government services with a budgeted decrease from 2025 budget of 7% in total, primarily related to amortization. So general government services include administration council and the EOC departments. We expect service levels to remain consistent with the previous years. And professional fees, which when we look at the budget to actuals, we'll have to have a discussion about that for 2025, but our budget for 2026 is based on a normal year of professional fees. Also, there was a slight decrease in professional fees as we had budgeted for by-election costs in 2025. We didn't incur those costs as Mr. McLaughlin was claimed. The next a department we're looking at is water. And again, fairly boilerplate. 2024, we had a moderate deficit of $77,000 based on revenues versus costs incurred. Water was a significant area of attention in 2024. SAP project, Alberta supply augmentation project. So there was a lot more labor allocated to the water department. In 2026, we expect a small surplus, and that would be based on having a 5% increase in utility user fees for water. Public Works is forecasting a 25% decrease in their base budget, primarily to do with maintenance. We had significant budgeted amounts for bridge repair and road work in previous years. It's not expected to occur. I believe that 3 projects have been already come underway for bridge maintenance. Total salaries and benefits are generally consistent with the budget each year. Allocation by department can vary based on where people spend their time. That leads back to the water discussion that labor in the water department was higher last year due to working on the ASAP project.
Just a footnote on salaries and benefits. Just a reminder that QB contract is up again for renewal, which is a bit of a question mark at this point. We don't have any sense as to what that actually means. So just create a placeholder or an asterisk beside that, so it's front of mind.
Regarding that, the budget doesn't incorporate the CPI increase related to every year related to works union salaries. And then once the contract's finalized, there may be an increase, but we try to keep it even in the budget. Also, there is a request that we'll discuss in the operations supplementals for Public Works. There is an intention to hire a new technician, 1 FTE, to augment the Public Works department.
Which is already on the books, but it's not a brand new position per se. It's just one that hasn't been filled recently.
Yeah. Next is protective services. No variance really to the prior year. It's bottom line 1% change. This encompasses bylaw and fire. Service levels are not expected to change prior years. There will be a discussion about supplementals for the fire department as council so chooses to proceed, but we can get that when we discuss the operating.
Sorry, there's another footnote on that. Another asterisk for council to put beside this one. It's a reminder you have a core services review. I would not expect having anything that you could really sink your teeth into. Very likely until January, early January, when the budget will be set. If there is something radical that comes out of that, and council wishes to address it financially, the budget will be amended if necessary. So in other words, don't be afraid that if council has passed the budget and something comes out of this core services review, that you're locked into it. You still have fluidity there.
Through the chair. Yeah, did I miss, did you say that there's, the 1 FTE for works is on the books and that person has already been hired?
No.
Did you say?
No.
Oh, okay. I
It just hasn't been filled.
It's sorry?
It hasn't been filled.
It hasn't been filled yet.
For quite a while now.
No, I understand, yeah, okay. No, I thought you had said that it had, as the final comment, so that's fine.
Parks and Rec. Again, no real change, just like increasing new. Budget fees relate to funding for the Sea to Sky Invasive Plant Species Plants Program. And in 2024, the Pride Trail was rebuilt with grant funding. So the grant funding offset the higher maintenance costs in that year.
Sorry, Joe. There's another asterisk on their maintenance for parks. So we won't know how the beach park is gonna roll out in terms of maintenance obligations yet until it's operational, and probably not until, I don't know, July, August next year, where we'll really sort of have a clear sense whether it's status quo or there's something unanticipated and extra. So you might just want to keep that on your radar as a bit of an unknown.
Solid waste, fairly flat. No real changes here. This is one of the most straightforward budgets that we have. Again, a 5% user increase. The remainder of the increase rates in revenue rates, the remittances from Cycle BC. We had estimated last year about $25,000 or $26,000 in revenue from Cycle BC. We ended up getting $45,000 because we've been doing well in their audits on keeping
The stream's clear.
the streams clear. So we budgeted about the same for 2026.
Any idea what how that budget might change if we go to protective garbage or larger containers?
I don't have that in front of me. That would be a great question for me and Carl to tackle and provide a staff report to council.
It seems like just very current bit of information,
It is
evolving rapidly, yeah.
Going to wastewater services. Maintenance down that's the most significant variance from the prior year. It's normalized to prior years. 2025 included $42,000 in budget costs for a spare gearbox and $12,000 for sewer line inspections. That was just incurred for 2025, so we're back down to normal based on 2024. Planning and development, no changes in planning services expected. Basically, this is building permits, our building inspector.
Sorry, Joe, just to give you, so back to Public Works, just a placeholder, so you know what to expect. This week, I learned that one of the Public Works trucks is so rusted out, there are holes now in the floorboards down to the, showing the road. That's not appropriate. We gotta get rid of that old truck. So, and as a supplemental, you're gonna see that reflected coming up later on, not today, but later on, just as a forecasting.
So here we come into kind of the potatoes of the budget discussions where I expect we're going to focus most of our time, and the 2026 capital budget.
Honey,
Oh, I had fun.
did you want me to talk about that?
Oh, yeah, sure.
So this,
I was going to.
yeah, I won't get into any details, but all I'm gonna say is these numbers are not gonna be what you can expect coming forward. There's a chunk of stuff in the supplementals to the tune of roughly $300,000. That includes things like OCP rewrite of five bylaws. And so on, so on and so forth. So all that's gonna be set out in supplementals, but that's a really big chunk of cash that you might want to just keep in the back of your mind. Or not that council has to do anything with it, but you'll sort of hear the pros and cons of whether you do, what happens if you do, what happens if you don't, sort of thing. But all I'm trying to point out is that this is not where this ends. These numbers are not sort of, they don't reflect the supplements.
Yeah, again, so to beginning of conversation, this is a base budget, and we've talked about add-ons.
Yeah.
So, we're looking at now the schedule of 2026 capital expenditures. From top to bottom, major items, fairly sure everyone's aware of the ASAP project, universal water metering, that's currently ongoing. We've got the money already, $3.9 million, and so it's grant funded. It's expected to be finished next year. Hub 3, we'll get the $1.3 million. We've been approved for it by the MFA. It should be in our coffers in the next few weeks, I believe. Carl, that work will start in 6. And then there are a number of other items that have been carried forward from our previous 2025 budget. One item that was on there last year but was deferred, but is now in here as an immediate need, is the pH water adjustment. And that's about $200,000. That was from the infrastructure committee and from works. And last year it was discussed and deferred. Now it's kind of more of an imminent issue, but again, we'll be discussing all these things in detail in our next session. Not much else here. There is a placeholder for, as Ross mentioned, there's a Ford F-150 that we need to replace. We purchased one for bylaw in 2025, and roughly $35,000 used at Ford F-150, and to replace the one that Public Works that's rusting out. We're looking to spend about the same amount of money. There are also a couple items for the hall, the municipal hall here. The stairs, as you know, are boarded off. They're unsafe, so we want to replace the stairs at the back of the hall. And there's
So Joe, that I think that's changed now.
Oh, has it changed?
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna replace those because Dave said that we are fine in terms of meeting the building code with access and egress points.
Mhm.
And so those stairs are no longer required. Council can always say, great, but we still want the stairs, that's an option. But it's one thing if we must have them vis-a-vis the building code, it's another thing if it's an option for council. So
Okay.
that's new information that council could consider at the time.
Oh, okay, great, okay. And then there's some repair work on, I'm not quite familiar with this one, Carl brought up the repairs at the front steps.
Yeah, so the front stairs, again, these are all wooden stairs in a rainy climate, so the front stairs are rotting out too. So we were gonna replace those in concrete, similar idea to the ones going up here. Not only will it look the same, we won't have to replace them anytime soon because they're made of concrete.
$20,000 though for
I
3
don't know,
steps?
yeah, I really don't think that's accurate, to be honest.
Yeah, I would have
Those are
a gag
those are gold-
response to that.
Gold plated stairs.
Escalating stairs.
Yeah. And there is a placeholder.
I'm just wondering, there was discussion and sort of ongoing discussion that the infrastructure committee had identified that had gone through actually a 3-year process, identifying how we can ensure that there's adequate water supply. And one of the means was to connect to the metro system, and the second was to drill wells. And my understanding was that it's been recommended that that we determine that we move ahead with researching, getting those wells, the information about the wells, and I'm not seeing that here.
I would thank you for your comment. That's a very relevant comment. I do remember that discussion from the prior year. We're not going to be debating getting to the weeds here tonight.
Okay.
If we can contain that for the next meeting where we have an in-depth, fulsome discussion about these items,
Okay.
and then we'll have everybody on
Okay,
board.
so-
and stuff.
Okay.
And that would fall into the category of supplementals. In other words, council could, they're extras that council could consider and relative importance to other items.
So these are supplementals here, though, right?
These are currently identified. If there are other items, again, we'll have a more fulsome discussion about each of these items. Keep it, knock it off. And anything new that may need to come in. Again, this is a dynamic process. Everybody's going to have some input, and but we want to contain the discussion to the meeting. In this case, the 16th for that specific item. So we're all focused on that, and you can come prepared to discuss it.
Right, okay. Okay, so these are not written in stone, these
Oh,
are,
absolutely not.
uh,
This is
okay.
a highlight meeting.
Yeah.
To get everybody kind of familiar with where we're at right now.
Mhm.
Again, it's a dynamic process. The numbers are gonna change, I guarantee you. But we wanna tackle it in pieces. And come to agreement throughout the process. Oh, and I think Ross can speak to this, just, so, there's a blank amount, it's a placeholder for a Brown Hall edition.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. So I've loosely back up even further. So there's been an issue around lack of storage. ESS has lack of storage. We have problems with file storage. We use a shipping container, but that's no doubt in the yard, so staff can't really easily access it, yada, yada, yada. One way around that is to increase the floor space of this building. Talk to Dave about its viability at a high level, it seems doable. And that is simply adding on 2 floors of storage space off the back of the building. Each floor would be accessed relative, the ground floor would have only ground floor access, blah, blah, blah. The ground floor, the intention would be the ground floor or whichever floor would be for ESS storage and whatever else. And the second floor, which is then heated and so forth. The second floor would be for file and municipal storage, which we have no space for storage at all. So what would that cost? No idea, blah, 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 but it's just being brought forward as something to think about.
Just a question, didn't we have a, request in to price out what containers would cost and storing them down at the works yard?
Yeah, we've done that. And it's, we'll get to it. There's not one size fits all of this. There's no perfect solution, everything has a pro and con. So when it comes time, if council so chooses to discuss it in detail.
Oh.
Devil's gonna jump.
I'm currently sitting at the table.
Yeah, go ahead.
I apologize that I am not here when I said I was gonna be. Slight family motor car situation.
All good now?
Yeah, now it's,
People on the other side of the bridge right now.
no, the wife managed to shred the tire.
Oh.
The car that we have to take to Tofino tomorrow. So now we're gonna take 4 people to Tofino in a mini.
so let's stop. A little close. They'll be better friends when you get there.
Well, as long as the turkey fits in.
You're not the last one to come.
Apologies.
Mr. Cherkoff?
Oh, right, so Carl, just to catch up quickly, we've agreed on a committed to a process on how we're gonna get through and manage the approval of the budget with the goal to have it first, second, third readings in December. Outline dates that we're gonna tackle specific items, and that's gonna be, we're looking to tick off items on the action log. And these are all compartmentalized on meeting dates. We're currently at the capital funding, which is a great time to walk in, capital funding requests. And
I need lots of capital, please.
so, as I kind of led the meeting, started off the meeting with, this isn't kind of like a deep dive into all the specific items, it's more of an information dump on what's coming down the pipe. So that's just that at our next meeting, we can have a fulsome discussion, people are prepared to discuss that specific item in that meeting. And some set level of agreement in principle, and then revise the budget for the next meeting for approval. So thank you, Ross, for kind of the discussion on Brown Hall again. It's just a placeholder, something to think about. Unbudgeted infrastructure projects is on the next page. This comes from the 5-year plan. I know that Carl has some items that need to come out, such as the DWIP, no longer necessary. We'll refine this, but this is more kind of below the line items that we're not budgeting for. We have a plan to address these, but shouldn't forget about them. So we'll fine tune this between me and Carl and Ross on what's kind of still necessary from that 5-year infrastructure plan.
Just a suggestion for next time, page numbers.
I was thinking about that, and I was too
We're
late.
doing this for Carl.
Yeah.
Don't come late next time.
I know.
My apologies, but yes, page numbers are very important. Again, so this is just for information, just keep it in your mind in the background that there are a significant number of projects that we haven't addressed at all in our current capital structure planning. So here we go, I'm gonna spend some time on this as our discussion on reserves and where money's coming from to fund the current. Oh, TV?
Yeah, maybe.
Cartoon show.
All right, continue on, Joe.
So, on the current, from, you can see this from, so how our financial statements work are, we come down to a net income or net loss in accordance with accounting standard, public sector accounting standards. Then we reverse out non-cash items to come up with a cash surplus. Effectively, what money is coming into the coffers. So our budgeted cash surplus currently at a base budget is $778,000. Out of that, $383,000 is required for repayment of debt principal. $210,000 is required to be transferred to the infrastructure reserve, and then $98,000, which is parcel taxes, is required to transfer to the land reserve to pay down the loan that was borrowed against the land reserve, leaving a contribution to the general reserve of $85,000. So, yes.
Actually, two different things. 88,000, I thought originally you said to me at bottom line, this out fully costed the way you presented it, it's a surplus of 146. Can I dream that?
But then don't recall that part.
Okay.
So our opening reserve from last year's project, well, 2025 isn't completed yet, but we expect it to be about $1.7 million, and the $85,000 from the current base budget. So a closing reserve, general reserve of $1.782 million. And that reserve consists of climate action funds remaining after spending on the heat pumps. There's a fire truck reserve that we contribute to.
Just a little footnote again, I'm gonna say this every year, new fire truck for that size, and I guess I'm gonna inflate the cost because of tariffs and so forth. That fire truck's coming due in the next few years. There's a way to fool around with things, but a little bit to extend it a little bit, but 250,000 is not the same as 1.5 million. So we're not gonna be able to put that aside in reserves every year to get there anytime soon. So there's gonna have to be some borrowing when that time comes. Again, you'll know more with this core fire service review. But just need to put an asterisk beside that, because that's sort of a ticking time bomb, so to speak.
Great. And just as a brief add-on to that, financing is going to be required if we're going to address that situation anytime soon. There are grants available that we can pursue. But we'll have a more in-depth discussion about that in the next meeting. And then Curly Stewart, of course, Recycle BC revenues, and then just the general reserve of 1.247. That's all the stuff that's left over in the general reserve. I guess the other thing to think about is for a fire truck, it's like a 2-year, if you want to get it new, it's like a 2-year lead time.
Again, council's gonna have a better understanding of what, and I don't want to necessarily say this online, but one of the options that is going to be explored through this is to determine whether or not the municipality can establish a service agreement with an adjacent jurisdiction to provide that service entirely. And so then it's not the Lions Bay doesn't have to worry about staffing or any of that stuff. It's just a certain amount every year that would be given to, if there was an appetite to do it, given to that jurisdiction, and they would take care of that service entirely, as an example. So this will come up again in that core services review.
So the next page is proposed service level increases. As far as service level increases, we've been proposing effectively everything remains the same, except for, as the previously mentioned, trying to fill a position in public works for a new technician.
Which is not entirely, it's not really a new FTE. It's an
It's been long
established,
budgeted.
Yeah.
And I can probably say, funny enough, we just spoke about it today. We think we can do it that one more year.
Oh, okay. Well, we will discuss that in our next meeting, in more depth, but possibly deferred.
Yeah, at a certain point, you're funding a slush fund, and so at a certain point, we have to say, we have to take it out, but, well, council can discuss it.
So the last page here is the operating supplemental requests. And just before we get into line by line here, kind of just a brief overview. The items in orange are they're not included in that 5-year plan. So these are just kind of based on spitballing about what we can expect as far as upcoming items for revenue requests. The other items have been baked into that 5-year plan that you've been presented with towards the beginning of the package. So vegetation management, $50,000 per year, and that would should tie into our management policy. Mag intake was no current year funding required. And it was budgeted previously and unspent, so that's going to be a draw on reserves at existing reserves. The one for the new for current year vehicle maintenance budget, repair of aging vehicles. Got a number of in our fleet that are aging and require significant maintenance. The new technician you see there, that's in operating, that's going to be an annual item. So to what Ross was alluding to earlier, and this has been discussed and highlighted in our council meetings, require the need for additional planning work around the village, an update to our OCP, as noted and Ross has noted, but updates to our very old bylaws. And there's also an ongoing discussion about whether or not we need a full-time fire chief. Currently, the budget includes $50,000 for a part-time fire chief. If we needed a full-time, we expected to cost at least $120,000. So I'll hand it off to Ross here for a second, just to maybe give a little color on the planning and OCP work in the bylaws. And we'll have a fulsome discussion about that in our next meeting.
Yeah, I don't know that I can add too much more to this than what I've said already. Did you want to make that spot available for? And again, these sort of planning exercises are fully at the discretion of council. There reaches a point, though, with some bylaws, particularly those that regulate land use, where there's liability. Maybe to use applications, to use their ability, the usefulness to the village. An example of this is the subdivision bylaw, not subdivision servicing bylaw, subdivision bylaw, which is one page, it dates, I think, 1974. So again, all of these are up to council. There's risks in dealing with these things, there's risks in not dealing with these things. So these will be fleshed out for your consideration.
So that concludes the PowerPoint presentation. Again, going back to just for kind of a wrap up. I encourage members of the whole staff to review the detailed budget that has been provided in your package and PowerPoint presentation and our schedule that we've committed to. And be prepared for our next meeting on October 16th to have a really in-depth discussion about the pros and cons of various capital and operating expense supplementals. I believe this is going to require the bulk of our time. And again, ideally, we're going to discuss this 16th. You'll have the budget revised for what's been agreed in principle here. It may change, as we keep on going on and refining the budget, but this is going to take most of our time. So if we can get at least a preliminary understanding of what we're looking at, it's going to get us to November 18th. department operating budgets, again, we'll spend 2 hours, they're pretty base. And I don't expect it to take a ton of work. And as we go through it, then we'll arrive at, after we have an understanding of where we kind of want to end up at, figure out what the property tax increase is gonna have to be. And as Ross mentioned, the course trading for properties. I will endeavor to create kind of like a live Excel worksheet so you can and see what the effect is on the bottom line. I encourage, as mentioned, members of the council committee, the whole, to contact, like, this is my primary focus. Please contact me individually. I set up a time if you want to come in person to discuss. I can put everything up on the screen, Excel files, all the supporting documentation. You can do it over email if you have got questions in advance. I can provide contacts and information in preparation for the next meeting. But the more communication that we have, the more stuff that I can address offline, the more productive our meetings can be as we go along with the goal of November 18th, getting first, second, third reading of the budget. And this would be the earliest we ever gotten that point in that day. And that's really all I've got for tonight.
So there's an ask from staff to council, and that is, ask is to help shepherd the process along altogether. So, everyone's, well, you guys are sort of helping facilitate the choreography that will allow us to achieve something that approximates that end goal. There's a bonus if you're able to pass the budget or get first 3 readings by November 18th. The bonus for council is you'll each get an oatmeal cookie in acknowledgement of that, or
With
chocolate
raisins?
chip with raisins,
With the fortune.
not American raisins.
Anything further before we open it up? Okay, so your intention was to get buy-in on this process. Do you mind if we go around and allow council to maybe get some high level questions they have or comments, and that might be able to be incorporated and speed things up? Okay, Councilor McLaughlin.
There you go. Thank you, Mayor Barry. If I could ask the deputy corporate officer to put a 5-minute clock on the wall, so I don't go over it, that's fine.
That's a good suggestion. We'll go 5 minutes,
Thank you.
each council
Could you
member.
give me a 1-minute reminder, please?
Will do.
Thank you very much. I'll be quick, so if I haven't been day drinking, so if I speak quickly, it's not because of that. You with that car problem, give me a break. Okay, as with everyone else, I've observed as a member of the gallery, the length of time it takes to do the budget. I'm committed to, as Mr. Cherkoff has said, to get it done. I think I prefer a week after the Remembrance Day. Certainly, I can see several readings. I would go the first council meeting in December for conclusion of the budget as a late date for me. Thank you very much, Mr. Cherkoff. I appreciate the high level spirit of this picture and that we're not in the minutia tonight. And with that, I'm going to unfortunately give you a bigger job, and I presume my colleagues are going to say the same. I'm going to hand back some stuff to staff. I appreciate your drilling down, but what I'm looking for is a reduction of over $200,000 in our budget. I won't talk about personnel as we're not in camera this evening. But on that matter, 2024, which is the latest audited financial statement, showed the highest ever cost of personnel. And that suppressed the personnel cost because one of our employees was hired only part of the year. 2025, I expect to be showing that full cost. And I understand in this budget, we're seeing yet another employee for 2026, which will make it even higher. So I'm going to leave that with you to consider how you do that. On the op cost, it's not for me to drill down at this point, but I believe there's significant opportunities in the, however, staff finds the $200,000 or $300,000. On the CapEx, I'm not trying to cut any of that, but I'm very concerned with the departure of an exceptional employee, our public works manager, and a hefty budget that's still in place to be concluded and one that is going forward. I'm reluctant to add significantly to an employee we don't have yet. And I beg caution on my colleagues that we not overload this new individual just yet. On the next piece, I think it's time for a taxpayer break. The 200,000 or 300,000 I'm talking about, that's just in, well, I won't deal in the minutiae, but I think that given this council, our community has absorbed significant legal fees, audit fees, payouts, and ballooning personnel costs. And I would propose, in addition to the budget reductions, that we ask that we give them a break. And that break would be, in my view, our 10% infrastructure fee. And that in this particular fiscal year, it is waived for 2026. I put forward in 2018 the motion for this infrastructure tax, and the purpose has been achieved. And without looking at the number, we probably have $750,000 in our kitty. My rationale behind this is that due to the good luck and performance of this council, we now have $4 million in the water metering grant. And due to the ICBC strip that came to us for round numbers, another $1 million. That's $5 million. I won't ask Mr. Cherkoff what our interest earned is, but I'm going to pick 3 or 4%, or 160 to about $250,000 that's coming to us and is being put into the infrastructure fee or fund, any way you cut it. So I think if our residents were the benefactors of that for a single year, I think it would be a decent thing to do. I won't talk about the economy, but let's say it's troubling out there, and lucky that we aren't on the East Coast. I think the other piece that I would go is that my guidance is that anything that is discretionary for staff or council is started out at 0 or a nominal number, and that there's no wiggle room or interpretation. A recent event at council showed that there was that ambiguity when council asked that costs for a set event or this for one individual, and suddenly we had other people going, and that was expensive. So to wrap it up, my points are to find 200,000 or 300,000 in reduction, and please identify that with the highlighter. Personnel cost reductions, I'm going to leave that for staff to figure out, and that could be an in-camera discussion. 0 on discretionary items, waive the infrastructure fee for 2026. And thank you very much. And I think I beat my 5 minutes.
Okay, Mr. Blackwell?
Yeah, thank you. So this is a common bear trap that I would do all I can to keep steer you out of. And that is direction from an elected body for staff to do the work of making tough decisions around cuts. So my request to council is, if council wants to entertain reductions of any amount, in this case, $200,000-300,000, it's council's job to identify what you want, what is acceptable politically for you to cut. And so you may have a list of 500,000, let's just say, and then that comes to the table and the pros and cons are discussed. But to put that onus on staff is very problematic. I've never seen it work well. So it's better that, and I would ask that council identify those things themselves. Not that it's perfect, not that it's fixed in stone, but my ask is that council take the first cut at identifying those things.
Mayor Barry, if I may respond.
Yeah.
I find that, thank you. This is staff's budget. It's not council's budget. Council's just looked at it today. Staff gets the first chance at making reductions. I think it's very arbitrary for the least informed people, those elected representatives sitting before you, should make those suggestions before you have the chance.
Yeah, Mr.
Yeah,
Blackwell?
thanks. So here's where staff will generally go. This budget's bare bones. Everything that's on here is based on what staff feels is important to sort of maintain the status quo. So what you'd be asking is for staff to determine where it feels service cuts or reductions are most appropriate, and that's not a staff level decision. That's a political decision. We could talk about the implications of that, but for, you know, Carl to determine whether priority 1 investment in this upgrade or that upgrade is better or worse, sort of not paid for to do that. So it puts staff in a very awkward position. So maybe we can find some sort of middle ground to sort of tease this out.
Perhaps you could find out before our next meeting.
Okay, we'll move to next council. Councillor Abbott or Councillor Brown, would you like to go?
I'll go, sure. I think, Councilor McLaughlin has very, succinctly encapsulated concerns that I expressed before the last year's budget. I identified that the economy was looking very troubled, and we had just had a significant tax increase the year before. So I do agree that we need to look at our costs and really look at what I'm of the understanding that we control policy and not operations. And so we're going to have to look very carefully at what our policies are in terms of what our expectations are of staff. I certainly think that we need to really look very carefully at all costs and look at the benefit of each item that we're prepared to fund. And so I think it's going to be a very interesting discussion. I'm troubled by the fact that we have not had a strategic planning session, and that we're not. I'm hoping that we're on, if not the same page, on similar pages in terms of what we see as critically important to the community. And so anyway, I think that's really important. I think we've got a situation where we do have a new director of operations coming online, and I have, your concern about, what are reasonable expectations of a new person coming in. So we really need to be thinking about that. We've got a fire review going on. I think there's a number of things that we're not quite sure how we're going to be operating. And so I think we need to really look carefully at what our policies are to drive those operations. So anyway, I look forward to some discussions. I'm something I was concerned about and expressed earlier in the meeting is, in the past it's felt like we sort of locked into things and then sort of incrementally locked in, and then it's very difficult to review. I think we need to look, if we're looking to $200,000 less expenses, I think we need to really understand the whole budget to see where that's the best approach to take that on. So anyway, that's helpful.
Okay, Mr. Churkoff, you have a comment?
Just to clarify, so you're not committed to the process that we've outlined?
Mhm.
You're not committed to this process?
I'm sorry?
You're not committed to the process outlined?
No, I'm committed to pursuing the timeline that you're talking about. Yeah.
I just want to make sure that.
And I'm committed to the process, but I'm saying that we're looking at, we need to look very carefully at the supplementals and to try to ensure that they do fit into what we believe to be our strategic plan as a council, as nebulous as that may be right now. So that'll be an interesting discussion.
Okay, Mr. Blackwell.
Thanks. Just to point out, this is something perhaps Ms. Canada is hoping to get some clarity on tonight from council if possible. So the 28th, you may recall, was a tentative date for council's strategic priority workshop. So that's sort of now in flux. There needs to be a new date. So before you guys go tonight or sometime very, very soon, it would be good to get that resolved. Regardless, that's 28th is deep into the process.
Mhm.
And you'll recall, this is precisely why I suggested that this happened earlier on. And so this is the fender bender that now is sort of the consequence of that. So
Sorry, why is that in flux? Why is that in flux?
I can't remember. Oh, it's
If I may, we were going to move the climate action committee following day, so that the strategic planning could take place on Tuesday, but there was a conflict with that, so many of those members did not meet that.
Several of the climate action committee members
have planned to go away. One of them is flying to Scotland the next day. And they've planned their trips and their lives and their business, including overseas flights, around that date. And they can't move it today. Two of them actually can't do it the next day.
No, it's a further meeting then, or?
We haven't met, in quite a while. We deferred the meeting the last time. We asked them to move their meeting because we thought one of ours was more important. And I committed then I wouldn't do it again because people only meet once a month and they don't meet through the summer. And then they plan their lives around it. So, and I think they provide very valuable input. I'd like us to stick to that.
Okay.
Mayor, may I
Councillor
suggest,
McLaughlin?
on the problem when you have so many people involved in this stuff, the calendar dates never work out. Let's do that at the end where we can hammer this down offline. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Abbott, your 5 minutes.
Yeah, so as I said, unfortunately, I can't make the next meeting, which seems when you get into the details. So just a few general observations. What I would like to see, hopefully you guys discuss and understand, and I can understand while listening to the audio, or having another conversation with Joe. As I said, Joe, I liked this layout compared to previous, with the addition obviously of actuals. The other thing that makes it a little difficult to read is the revenue side when we roll in grants. And for example, we have government transfers, and we've put in $4 million grant there. So we don't really have a reference point to what's actually changed from last year. I think if we could on each of the lines where there's a grant impact on a number, maybe we can just pull it out or put it below the line or something. So when we are looking at core services, we talk about core services.
Apples to apples.
Because they get fudged by that grant. Same with borrowing. Yeah.
If I may. So on that page, on the highlight, I removed grants and loan forms, so it just showed revenue sources by our customary items. And then in your detailed package that was included with the committee of the whole meeting package that went out with all the detailed note numbered kind of spreadsheet items that you usually see, it does specify, like line by line.
Yeah, I know there's these. I'm just thinking to look at the overall summary view.
Yeah.
For example, what I'm talking about, page 12. Actuals 2024, 965,000 on this is government transfers. Budget this year, $5 million. Well, that must be from a grant. Right?
My apologies, am I looking at the wrong thing here?
Okay,
I'm just curious if I can defend.
the agenda package was sent to us.
So I was hoping to just show, on the subsequent slides,
Yeah, saw those. I wasn't quite sure of those. I was going
and
to
then
walk you through that.
revenue here, specifically identifying what grants are and what this is, so apples to apples, oranges to oranges.
I'm saying some people don't like details. That I'll go to them, but I'm just saying that particular summary sheet had those two in a separate line. You wouldn't have to ask the question.
Sure, okay.
And then, showing borrowing as a revenue, I understand, well, I don't understand accounting. You guys need to show borrowing as a revenue. That's a number on its own, so I guess we can always easily subtract that. Right? Because borrowing is not a revenue. Borrowing is something you bought. You pay for it with interest.
Yeah, it's a PSAP. I mean, it's crazy, but that's how they insist.
So that was the one thing. I'm going to need someone to walk. Maybe you guys you can dig into. I need right now. I think I need someone to walk me through the whole pages on the section where we were talking about the various funds. We used to talk about reserved and unreserved, and now we got the other different categories. I don't dislike it. Not quite sure I've kind of wrapped my head around all of that. I think that's going to need, because it's new, a little more fulsome discussion. I think it's going to give us something that we seemed to find lacking last year. I certainly asked for it a few times. So I like that, but I need someone to walk me through that, and hopefully we'll listen to the recording and get it. Otherwise, I'll just consider it.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, please, and if you like, again, I've got all the detailed spreadsheets, and as I've mentioned to the rest of the committee of the whole, please come talk to me, you can do it on the phone, you can do it in person, through email. I think in your case, I think we should sit down and go through it together. I've got all the spreadsheets available. And in your case, I think it would be particularly useful as we're not going to be able to meet the next meeting. But again, I am 100% committed in my time to advancement of this budget with the goal of November 18th.
Okay, so on a similar line on the, and I know it's down in, later down, I'm sure it's there when I get into the weeds, but on a similar line, contract fees and services get rolled up, and I think there's an impact that you have to dive in the weeds to find, and it's not clear. There's an impact on special contract services that aren't the normal ones. So special normal contract services, legal and so, but specifically, specifically, I think the numbers get slanted by project management fees and the number of projects we've got there.
That's a fantastic point. Councillor Abbott, if we could contain that to our individual face-to-face sessions or the next meeting.
I'm just trying to use the best of my 5 months because I'm not here for the next session. I'm gone for a week. You guys are all going to be way advanced when I come back.
Hey, Councillor Abbott, we're over the 5 minutes,
Well,
but we will.
In
maybe
fairness, I
another
think Joe
question,
spoke
and
as
then
much as I did in 5 minutes.
And then we'll go around the table and we'll come back to you again for a second go, but any final comments before we move to the next? Oh, okay. All right, my comments, I think there's been some very good suggestions. I'm definitely on board with Councilor McLaughlin's suggestions that we do some cuts, but I also hear Mr. Blackwell, and I think this is going to be council's difficult decisions that we as a group need to address and need to basically look at and make those tough decisions. So I acknowledge that. I think the strategic planning session is definitely a must. We're almost getting ahead of ourselves, I think. So we maybe at the end of this, and as Councillor McLaughlin suggested, after we're offline, we want to land on a date as early as possible. I'm hearing that the Climate Action Committee is firm on their date, so that's fine. I think council's going to have to make some adjustments and find another date, and hopefully we can find it at the front end of this whole process. I think it'll be much more productive if we do. As a council, again, I think strategic planning. We've got many items which have contributed over the last few years to cost escalation in audits, legal fees, the resistance on adopting of provincial recommendations, legal counsel's recommendations. There's over 25 deliverables outstanding, which are critical. And most of all, the code of conduct, which our legal counsel will be putting a new version in front of us. So I think all of these things, if we're able to address some of these as soon as possible, I think we are going to cut some costs here over the last portion of our term. But I do think that's important. I like the suggestion to perhaps waive I guess the fees that we talked about, the infrastructure holiday. So I think that's a great suggestion. But lots of work to do, and it's going to fall on council's shoulders to make the tough decision. So that's my comments. Councilor McLaughlin, we'll go back to you. And
thank you very much. I'll give everybody
else.
else more time. Mayor Barry, I'm sure I echo your thoughts, because I'm sure they're the same as mine with my colleagues, and this is meant for staff. We want everything for our residents. We really do. Some of them are going to be unhappy because we can't deliver, but I think we all want everything for our residents. That's my statement.
Okay, Councilor Broughton.
Yeah, I think we need to look at the whole budget as an entirety and package, and we need to look very carefully at policies. And it's been a repeated theme of things that are operational versus policy. And I guess I'm very concerned that we really tighten up our policies so that there's real clarity in terms of what council's expectations are in terms of operations. So ultimately, the 5 council members have the fiduciary responsibility to put forward the best budget possible for the community. And I really value the recommendations that are being put forward, and I'll listen very carefully to those recommendations. But ultimately, as I've stated a number of times in the last several months, I do have a fiduciary responsibility to the people who we represent, and so I will be looking very carefully at how items that we're funding impact and reflect on village members. I support the holiday from the infrastructure levy, and I've spoken to that last 2 years actually, and so feel very comfortable with that. I'm very concerned, and I haven't heard it maybe so much in the last year, but the fact that as we have an aging population, more of them are eligible to defer their taxes. And I have heard comments made that, well, it's no big deal if we have a tax increase because people can defer their taxes. But what I've heard more and more examples of is when people are actually trying to sell their homes, or selling their homes, trying to downsize, that type of thing. By the time they paid their property sales tax, the property purchase tax, and paid off their taxes that they've deferred, the cushion that they'd hoped in their housing is not providing them the funds they need to relocate to, in some cases, safer locations, smaller locations, more maintenance friendly kind of locations. So we really need to look hard at our tax rate, and we also need to be looking at the same time at our bylaws and implementation of our bylaws to allow for people to age in place. And this goes back to our strategic plan. We have the opportunity for people to build secondary suites in their homes and cottages, or ADUs, or whatever we want to call them, but cottages. And I'm experiencing a lot of people expressing an interest in that, in order to either live in it themselves, have their children live in it, have support staff live in that secondary structure, so that they can age in place safely. We are needing more and more people to serve it, to provide services to the residents. There are increasing number of people who are individuals in their homes, and they need help. And so we need to look at the big picture of that. So anyway, so that impacts a whole bunch of different factors in this budget.
Okay. Thank you very much. Councillor Abbott?
Maybe just touch on this infrastructure levy holiday that I heard. It will take a lot to convince me to support that. I think that infrastructure levy, and I'm pleased we actually now allocating money from that fund as it was intended to be spent in the time that the people that pay for it, because it's not meant to be creating a nest egg for the future. It's meant to be spent to fix aging infrastructure. That deficit is huge, and we've started to make progress on that infrastructure debit finally, and to lose that momentum, take our foot off that pedal just because we want to go out and say, hey, we had a 0% tax increase, is going to be very unlikely that I'm going to support that. I will take some convincing. We absolutely need to keep going with that. And also, if we don't have that, we don't get any grants. We have to demonstrate that we're taking care of our Asian infrastructure, although they won't give us any more grants. We have to price in to every time we get a new grant, we have to price in that's what I'm looking for, sorry. Depreciation, that's what I'm looking for.
Amortization.
Hey?
Amortization.
Amortization, thank you. We have to price that in each time And the way we get around that, we're all going to say, we have an infrastructure levy, we cover them for it. If we don't do that, we're not going to get a levy. And we are making, as I said, we're finally making some good progress. We need to keep that momentum going. If we go back to increasing our infrastructure deficit, it is just a recipe for a train smash. I'm not saying I wouldn't like to see tax decrease or cost increases, absolutely, as much as everyone else, but not at the expense of the momentum in our infrastructure.
Okay, thank you for that. I think, again, it just highlights, Councillor Abbott highlights the difficult choices we have ahead. We, as residents, would like it all, but we will have to make some difficult choices. Just looking at your schedule and thinking about your schedule, I know we're all buying into this. Councillor McLaughlin threw out the December 1st, maybe to give ourselves a little breathing room. I think we should consider inputting the strategic planning somewhere on one of these dates, and my suggestion is earlier than later if we have to push things a little bit down the ladder, but I think we need to take one of those dates and replace it with strategic planning, because that is going to set the stage for everything that we're discussing.
If I may?
Yeah.
If that's the approach that if council is so minded, I would recommend that we keep this date, because this is going to be a lot of conversation, but it also influence your discussions on strategic planning, at least in the perspective of the current year. So we would move operational budgets. You'd have your strategic planning here, and then we just move everything down one meeting.
Okay, I won't ask for a decision on that, or we were going to discuss that according to Councillor McLaughlin offline. I think that's wise. I just thought I'd make that comment. I just think it's important that we do get this underway. Councillor Abbott.
Your Chair, it's committee of a whole meeting. I'm sure we can discuss it now. We don't have to go offline. It's just trusting for you. The only problem is we're one councillor short.
Can I just suggest what might be the easiest way is we'll do a survey, whatever the hell it's called, what is it, Survey Monday or whatever.
Doodle poll.
Doodle poll, that's what it was.
Yeah, they don't work as well as you think, but I did try it.
Well, emails aren't working. So doodle poll might be.
We don't, you haven't had very good response in getting feedback on that. If we're gonna discuss it right now, I'm fine with discussing it right in the committee.
You've got some good response.
Let's land on a date right now. What you're suggesting that the 16th, we have a two-part series, is that what you're saying? Is that the 16th?
I would suggest that 16th, we do the meat and potatoes of what we're going to be discussing in this budget, are the supplementals, operating supplementals and capital supplementals. And I wanted to dive into the utilities rate increases there, because it's pretty straightforward. I just wanted to get out of the way.
And Councillor Abbott is not available and should be here for a strategic planning meeting. So if we're looking at strategic planning, then I don't think that's a.
So that's
start.
So the next meeting would be we'd push departmental operating budgets down to the next meeting.
So 23rd.
Yeah, 23rd.
What have we got next? What do we have on 13th, 14th, 15th?
One of the crucial things we still need to get done, and that's the CEO review.
October 13th, 14th, 15th, according to committee, the whole meetings is blank. I'm not quite sure if there are any other committee meetings. We'd have to take a look at it.
Yeah, that calendar's changed.
If you just avoid Tuesdays, committee meetings and the council meetings on Tuesdays, except Remembrance Day, which is a holiday. So Tuesdays are taken, or the first four Tuesdays.
We need to do it well before Remembrance Day. What's on the 14th?
Yeah, the next week, there's nothing on the 14th because there was going to be infrastructure, but that's not happening. So next week is
October 14th.
Why don't we do the 14th? That's a Tuesday.
Use that for strategic planning session, right?
Yeah.
Works for me.
Okay,
Sorry, what was on?
14th.
No,
You're away.
14th. I'm away. And you said that's next week. No, I'm away the whole of next week.
You said you're away the whole next week.
Yeah, he's away next week, okay.
I was listening.
Thanks.
Sorry, I just somewhere I was thinking 16th. You're away the entire week.
Yeah, let's go with
Well, I'm back on Friday, late Thursday night. I'm flying out on Monday night.
So.
You're back on the seventeenth. What do we have on the seventeenth this
Friday?
Yeah.
Friday?
It's a Friday.
The Monday.
The week of the 20th.
Would you consider meeting on the
I
weekend?
may be gone on the 20th. What
Let's
do we,
vote.
what's the 17th? That's a Friday. What do we have planned for the Friday, 17th? I mean, other than we probably have lots of social activities, but
I think we're putting a square peg in a round hole. Councillor Abbott's available on the 17th. We're just exploring the rest of the month. I'd take either the 17th or the weekend. I'm ready to do a weekend 2 hours.
17th, let's book the 17th. That's Friday.
We'll need one more counselor to weigh in on that to know if we have that nailed down. So Crystal can maybe put that out to all of council's confirmation, and if anyone can give Jamie a nudge to check her emails around
You
that.
know, CIA Blackwell, I think first time I actually thought about this, nothing is ever perfect.
What? It's not.
It's not. So, I mean, if one of us is away, well, that's for whatever reason, it's just the way it is.
But what about the suggestion of taking a Saturday morning?
Well, Friday's on the Friday, the 17th is on the table. That's fine.
That's a work day, you know, Friday, Saturday are both. Yeah, do the 17th.
I mean,
See
the
what
reality
happens.
is all of us are working on it.
And all of us have families, so.
Yeah.
Saturday too, that it's not just me that comes in, right? It's Carl, it's Joe, it's Crystal.
Yeah.
It's me.
Do the Friday if we
I'm not
can.
available
Let's
on
try
the
that.
18th for sure.
Okay, so we're still talking about an evening meeting on the Friday, right? No,
Yeah,
no,
the
daytime.
18th, the 17th.
17th, yeah.
Hard, 5
Okay.
o'clock, 5, what's the time?
The earlier the better.
Well, two folks are for sure working, so
Okay, how is your Friday? My suggestion, we asked Jamie, if she can't make Friday at 6, I'm prepared to move it earlier if that would work for others. Neville, how does that work for you? Or
I'm just so busy. I mean, normally my time's flexible, but I'm
I would
busy and way
say,
behind. I'd be struggling
okay,
to do an afternoon.
Um,
And we've got so many other requests for afternoon stuff.
okay, here's my suggestion. Ask Jamie if she's available on the 17th. If she isn't, then move it to 4 o'clock start, and that's gonna give us 3 good hours there and give staff a chance to get home and others.
So with that in mind, I just want to remind you that I have not received a full complement of the workbooks. So what that means is some people are gonna be prepared with regard to those topics and others are not, which is gonna delay it's gonna impact the discussion. What I've done in recognition of that is, what I didn't want to do to sort of unduly influence the council, is I sent you mine. Since I've sent mine, there have been other emergent issues. So, what I would ask you to do between now and then is think about, in terms of strategic plan, try to focus it on those 4 realms that I've listed ideally. And we gotta keep that list small, so it's achievable. Small would be at the number set out in that list, so this is just for the reason.
Can I make a suggestion that we get a commitment from the councilors to respond to your request for feedback on that, and let's put a date on that, like by the 14th, that's Tuesday. So if we all get you back those booklets with our thoughts, and it can be as minimal or as fulsome as you'd like, but at least you have something, and then I would imagine you're either going to consolidate those or put them on the table. That gives you a little bit of chance, maybe gives you a chance to give us, 14th, if we respond to you by the 14th, you've got the 15th, you can come back to us, we'll have something to look at prior to the 17th.
Yeah, what I'm gonna do is, it'll be anonymous. I'll take all the information I get and create a master list. And then you guys are gonna have to go through that list and set priorities. So it'll be, first of all, discussion, what is each thing, what does it mean, what's its implication? And then it's sort of a council get to place, the easiest approach is council gets to rank them with sticky dots. And keeps it simple, keeps it fast, and it results in a preliminary cut. Council talks about that preliminary cut. Is council comfortable with that? Is switching in or out? And then that, after that second cut is done, you have your strategic priorities. It's not a strategic plan, it's strategic priorities for this next 12, well, it's less than 12 months now.
Okay, how is that for timeline?
Good with me.
Yeah, so we just understand, so you're not asking anyone to redo the workbook. When I did it once and I didn't do it, we asked to do it a second time. I haven't found the time on, I don't think I'm gonna find the time to redo the workbook. So you're gonna go from information you currently got,
I don't know that I have yours.
yeah, from the first go.
Yeah, I don't know that I have that, so, because I don't recall seeing it. I'll look, but I don't recall seeing it. If you have a copy handy, like the email,
Okay, find the email I sent you.
yeah,
I mean, I responded to it first.
okay, I'll look
Okay.
for it, and if I won't, I'll reach out.
I think we all, I know I responded originally, I'll take a look at it, but probably update it like you said. So we either update it or just send you what we've done before. You consolidate them.
Because there have been so many go rounds on this, I wonder if you could let us know what you have.
I believe so.
The most, because I believe I've sent it to you, but I believe.
Yes,
that
I have yours, I have
Okay.
Ron's.
Okay.
That I know of, and I have Ken's that I know of. I don't have Ken's current iteration, yet what he's talking about is,
I did the first, and I said I didn't have time to do it.
so I've not received
Nothing.
anything.
So the
Okay, so
first
you
will
either
come
use
second.
Neville's information from before, or he updates it. If he doesn't update it by the 14th, go with the old information. And same with Jane.
I don't have anything to change.
Okay. You can ask her, advise her of those dates when you talk to her. Okay.
So
Anything
what-
else?
Yeah, while we're on the calendar, where do we at with the CAO review meeting? Where did that land?
We plugged it into some
Do
data.
you have that in front of you there?
No, this is concrete level.
It hasn't moved, because I'm just wondering if that has moved with all the shuffling.
22nd.
Okay, so that hasn't moved with all the shuffling around. Okay,
Mayor Barry?
Yeah.
Two minor things. Firstly, Crystal, sorry, Deputy Corporate Officer. Press send on all those invites tomorrow so we can load our stuff. I mean, it's getting confusing. And thank you very much. And the second one, this is for Mr. Cherkoff. In terms of how we come back to you, I mean, I think I heard in your ask, I know you had the open door policy on this one. Email kind of beats talking. Is this something you want individually? Or, I mean, for me, if I'm gonna email you 5 or 6 things, I'll copy council, so we're not a repetition on this. I'm not looking for an answer. I'm just gonna make some points and you do whatever you wanna do with them.
Sure, and again, going back to our previous conversations and suggestions that I have kind of like an open log from what people have asked for. Put a lot of that, so
But
everybody has.
that is and I mean, we're trying to push this through really quickly, so holding back and waiting for the live conversation, it's not working for you, so.
Just point of clarification, so you're talking about a change log, but you're talking about input,
Input,
and you're talking about change log, those are two different things.
Both.
Hmm?
Talking about both.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
I'm
fine, just to clarify.
disseminate the information questions.
well, I mean, to me, I mean, you can
Perfect.
say, you know, dumbass idea, I mean, council could say that's whatever it is.
Yeah.
But again,
Just to
clarify.
clarify.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions before we adjourn the meeting? No, motion to adjourn the meeting?
I mean, we just have to go.
We do, yeah, apologies, I skipped the participation. Is there anyone online that would like to participate?
No hands?
Okay, a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Okay, moved, seconded by Councilor Abbott, all in favor? Yep. Opposed, motion carried.
Carried.
Thanks,
right.
council.
Thanks, staff.
That was helpful.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Council.